The best left-leaning decreases in knitting. Have you ever knitted a project with right and left-leaning decreases only to notice that your knit two together looks super neat, but your SSK maybe only okayish? Then you came to the right place, because in this video I will be showing you quite a couple of alternative ways to knit a neater left-slanting decrease. But that's not all. I will also show you why your SSKs might look a bit wonky and how you can fix that the easy way. So let's dive right into it and let me show you the best left-leaning decreases in knitting. But before, like this video right now to support my work, and absolutely make sure and comment with your favorite left-leaning decrease. Let's start with some very important theory first. Kindly use the chapter function of YouTube if you want to skip ahead directly to the knitting instructions. Whenever you want to knit two stitches together, you are essentially creating a mini cable. Either the left loop lays on top or the right loop lays on top. And if it's the left loop, it will appear to be right-leaning, and if it's the right loop that ends up on top, it will result in a left-slanting decrease. If you take a look at this swatch here, you can hopefully see this. Here I got a line of knit two togethers, and here these are SSK, slip, slip, knit. And as you can see, the slant of these stitches is quite clear. Here the right loop lays on top and is drawn to the middle, and it will look like the resulting stitch leans towards the left, and here it's the other way round. Now you might notice that these SSKs are a bit wonky. So why is that? Why is this left-leaning loop so much bigger than the right-leaning loop? Well, most knitters stretch out the currently active stitch when they knit it. And as you widen that stitch, see, you steal, let me show you again, you steal yarn from this stitch one row below, because this stitch is still tightly wrapped around the needle, so you only steal yarn from this stitch. And when you knit two together, let's do this with these big needles, it's a bit more difficult here. So when you knit two together and you steal yarn, then it will tighten up this stitch here. And this will also be the stitch that lays on top, so it really works in your favor. The problem with a left-leaning decrease is, let's knit SSK here. Let's knit SSK here. The problem with a left-leaning decrease is, when you knit the next stitch, this will close the stitch that is to the right, but this will be the stitch or the loop that is hidden below the prominently left-leaning loop. And because yarn has quite a lot of friction, you normally do not affect stitches that are further down the needle, so this loop stays big. You can't close it anymore. So basically the reason why your SSK looks wonky has to do with your knitting direction. It's from right to left. To prove this, here's a swatch where I decreased with knit two together here and knit two together through the back loop here, which would be the easiest left-leaning decrease. And here, after this row in a reverse garter stitch, I decreased on the wrong side with purl two together here and purl two together through the back loop. And those are, from a theoretical point of view, exact mirrored copies. But as you can see, this decrease line will look much neater. And that's because when you knit the wrong side and you purl these two stitches through the back loop, purl these two stitches through the back loop, and then you knit the next stitch. This will tighten up the stitch that is on the left of the decrease. So I knit this stitch and it tightens up the stitch that is on the left. But as you turn things around, this obviously is the stitch that is on the right side, so you tightened up exactly the stitch that needs to be tight. And I guess this is the very first and most important lesson of this video. If you want to create a needle left-leaning decrease, you absolutely need to find a technique that ensures that the right loop of the two loops you want to decrease is tightened up in a way. You can do that by decreasing on the wrong side, but you have many other options as well. And I'm going to go through your alternatives step by step so you can see how to knit things now. As I just said, the easiest version to create a left-leaning decrease is knit two together through the back loop. So you knit it like this, but this will create a twisted stitch, and this will be quite prominent in a sea of untwisted stitches. So that's why SSK was created, because you will slip the first stitch knitwise. And then when you knit that stitch through the back loop, you are essentially untwisting it again. So let's knit SSK. Slip one stitch knitwise, slip another stitch knitwise, and then knit these two stitches through the back loop. And the result will be an untwisted stitch that lays here on top. But as I explained previously, the loop on top will still be a bit too loose, and this will be quite visible. So how do you fix that? You have four options. You can adjust the twist, you can gloss over the twist, you can knit the wrong side, or you can adjust the tension manually. Let's start with the easiest version first. The probably most popular version is knitting SSPK. Slip, slip, purl, knit. So you slip this first stitch knitwise, and then you return it to your left needle, and then you knit these two stitches through the back loop. Some tutorials will show you to slip one stitch knitwise and then slip one stitch purlwise, but as you slip those two stitches back to the left needle, I kind of feel slipping the stitch purlwise. I don't really see the point. Anyway, this will result in a decrease line that lays a bit flatter. It's still not totally neat, but a tiny bit better. Another super easy option is knitting a regular SSK. So you knit a regular SSK, just the way I just showed you. And when you come across the decrease in the return row, it's quite easy to see because it has these two loops around its base, but obviously you could also place a stitch marker. And then you don't purl it, you purl it through the back loop. And that's already it. And let's turn things around, and as you can see, this will balance out the decrease line quite a bit. Let's see, compare that to SSPK. I think it's so much neater. I already showed you this technique in my video with the 10 best knitting tips. I'll link it to you up in here in case you want to catch up. So it's just a normal SSK and in the return row, you purl the remaining stitch through the back loop. If you're knitting in the round, you obviously would have to knit the stitch through the back loop. What you can also do is, instead of decreasing on the right side, you can decrease with SSP, slip, slip, purl on the wrong side. So you slip one stitch knitwise, slip another stitch knitwise, return those two stitches through to the left needle, and then you purl these two stitches through the back loop. So let's do that one more time. Slip one stitch knitwise, slip the next stitch knitwise, return these two stitches to the left needle, bring the yarn to the front if it isn't already there, and then purl these two stitches. Oops, that wasn't right. Catch the yarn there. Purl these two stitches through the back loop. So SSP is exactly a mirror inverted SSK, but as you knit it on the wrong side, you tighten up the stitch you need to tighten up, and the result is a decrease line that is just divine. Just look at that. And if you compare it to all the other versions I showed you, so this is SSK, this is SSPK, this is SSK with purl through the back loop in the return row, So this is by far the neatest options. Needless to say, it's also quite complicated to incorporate in a pattern and no option at all when you are knitting in the round. So what are your other options? The first one is called knit two together left. It's a super neat left-leaning decrease, but admittedly a bit more difficult to knit. So let's knit it together. So you insert your knitting needle knitwise into the first stitch on your left needle, but you don't knit it. Instead, you insert your knitting needle into the back loop of the next stitch, and then you knit that through the back loop here, staying in the back. Here is that loop, and then you pull that loop here through the front, and then you drop that loop, and now you pull on that stitch to widen it and move all the excess yarn to the left, and then you drop that stitch, and now you tighten up that stitch, and then you knit the next stitch, and that's already it. Let's do it one more time. So you enter knitwise, then you go find the next stitch, go through the back loop, pull the yarn through, there is your stitch, and then you guide it through the other stitch, drop that loop and tighten, then you move the yarn to this stitch, and then you drop it, and then you tighten up and knit the next stitch. Let's do it one more time in slow motion. And as you can see, this will create a super neat left-leaning decrease because you are actively moving the excess yarn from the loop that will lay on top. Admittedly, this is a bit cumbersome to knit, but it will look super neat. So here is an alternative with somewhat similar results. So you slip one stitch knitwise, then you knit one stitch, and then you pass that stitch over, and then you find the stitch that is one row below and you yank the yarn, and then you knit one stitch. There you go. Let's do it one more time. Slip one stitch knitwise, knit one stitch, pass the slipped stitch over, and then find the stitch that is one row below, yank it out, and then continue knitting. Let's do that one more time in slow motion. And as you can see, this will also create a super neat left-leaning decrease. If you know your knitting theory, then you might recognize that this is actually almost the same as a slip, slip, purl knit, but with the additional twist of adjusting the tension of the loop that lays on top. There you have it. These are all the left-leaning decreases I showed you in this video. Kindly comment below and tell me which version you like best. But there's one thing I would like to mention here at the end. We all knit with a different tension, different techniques, and possibly different yarn. And as a result, the version that looks best for me might actually not be the best technique for you. It really also depends on the project. Is it a knitting stitch pattern? In this case, knit two together through the back loop can actually look quite seamless. Or is it, you know, the decrease line of a raglan sweater? So that's why I showed you all these alternatives. And also do know that there are many other variations of the left-leaning decrease as well. I have a video here on my YouTube channel with a knit two together twisted version I use for Bavarian twisted stitches. I'll link it to you up in here. It's super obscure, but still a very viable technique. Anyway, that was my list of the best left-leaning decreases in knitting. Please give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed watching, comment with your questions and your feedback, and of course, consider subscribing to my channel in case you do not want to miss any new videos. Happy knitting and enjoy the rest of your day.